In this video, I'm going to be sharing with you how I went from $0 to $14,000 per month in free SEO traffic in 2024 and what's working right now. So if I pull up the Ahrefs, we started this case study in mid-February, and you can see that the traffic value was just $37 per month. And over the course of the next 11 months or so, we peaked at $14,283 in organic monthly traffic value here on Ahrefs, and the organic traffic just under 50,000 visits per month. So we did this all in less than 1 year. And you can see we did this in 2024 during a time of a lot of core updates, like the August core update, November core update, December core update. But our site continued to grow despite not having a lot of pages. So we were actually able to do this while working less than 4 hours per week on the blog. And just to show you proof of that, if I add the number of organic pages for this website, you can see we actually have stayed at the same number of pages since October, actually since September. And our site continued to grow in value from September all the way to December up until now. So basically, how are we able to keep growing up and to the right while not really doing a lot of work real time, at least in recent months? So we're going to talk all about that. I'm going to share with you what worked and what didn't work in 2024, because we tried a lot of experiments and a lot of different things. And I just want to share with you what's actually working apart from the noise online. And then we're going to talk about how important are backlinks really? Is it possible to succeed without them? Because there's a lot of confusion about backlinks, their importance in basically SEO these days. I'm going to share with you what the average word count is ranking on page 1 for me. And not just page 1, but we're talking positions 1, 2, and 3. So in our case study, we actually have almost 400 keywords in positions 1, 2, or 3. Not just page 1, but literally in position 1. So lastly, I'm going to share with you the content types and the keywords that actually earn the most affiliate commission. So aside from traffic, what actually made sales, okay? Because that's more important than just getting a bunch of SEO traffic, okay? And then next, I'm going to talk about the free and the cheap SEO tools I use to achieve these results. You'll thank me after canceling your overpriced $99 a month Ahrefs and SEM subscription. And lastly, how to future-proof your business from Google algorithm updates and how to diversify your traffic in 2025 so you can sleep well at night. All right, so if that sounds good, let's begin. First, let's talk about my strategy and what worked and what didn't work in 2024, because we tried a lot of things, okay? So just to go over my overall strategy from a bird's eye view, I believe in a holistic approach. So every single little thing matters. A lot of people, they'll say it's just one thing, like one hack, one secret, one tip. I don't believe that's true. I think in order to get results that are explosive like this and to have real sustainable growth where, over a period of a year, you can have explosive growth that is clearly trending up and to the right, okay? Basically, you need to do everything correctly. So the less of a social media following you have, let's say you're not relying on having hundreds of thousands of subscribers or followers, which most of us don't have, okay? The more your SEO has to be perfect so that your content can be discovered. Think about the discoverability of your content. If you don't have a following, you must rely on having perfect SEO, okay? Or else, how else are people going to come across your content? And the next thing is you need to focus on building trust and authority first, and then sales second. Most people, they just bypass trust and they just want to make sales, and they totally skip building any trust, any authority with their brand or with their content. And lastly, treat every single keyword like online real estate. So take it seriously. Don't just satisfy a minimum requirement just to say you did it. So just to say you knocked out this keyword, you do a little 500-word post and you say, okay, there you go. I did that post for that keyword. I'm done. Let me move on to the next one. No. Again, 59 pages, so less than 60 pages, and a traffic value of over $14,000 a month, so 5 figures a month, and then just under 50,000 organics per month. And that's with less than, almost half of 100 pages. Whereas people have these websites and these case studies with like 500 pages that don't have this much traffic and this much growth in 1 year, especially from where we started. back in February, right? So let's move on to the snowball effect and the power of compounding. So basically, when I'm thinking about my website, and if I just remove these and I just want to look at the traffic value, right? We're just looking at what is the traffic value that we've been able to gain. And you look at this chart here, and it kind of looks like a stock, and especially a good stock, something like Tesla in 2024, okay? And you have to really buy and hold your business and invest into your business like it were a stock, because it starts out small and you have to believe in it when no one else does, just like Bitcoin. And you have to hold on to that stock, keep investing into it every single month, dollar cost average into that stock, which is your website, which is your business, which is your YouTube channel. And over time, you know, the value just explodes, okay? And this is just the beginning. 2025, new year, and we're starting here. Whereas in 2024, we started at less than $100 a month. We're starting 2025 at over $10,000 a month already, okay? Fantastic. Next is be intentional about the customer you choose. So when you create your brand even and your content, you get to choose your customer. And instead of niches, and I talked a lot about niching down, micro niching, okay? That's still important, but I think what's even a better framework these days is think about a customer to serve. Don't just think about broad niches, health and wellness, but think about demographics. Think about health and wellness for seniors over the age of 65, okay? Really start to think about a customer, someone, you know, an age demographic, whether, you know, it's male or female, whether it's, you know, high income earners or, you know, what have you. So that brings me to my next point. Don't sell to broke people. You get to choose your customer when you craft your brand and you make your website and you create your content. You either create content that attracts broke people that can't afford to buy anything, or you can create content that attracts people with high incomes who are professionals who have, you know, a good salary and can afford to buy things, okay? And they understand things like value, like the things that you're selling and the things that they're buying. It's the value that's important, you know, not just the price, okay? And then high ticket over low ticket. So this is another choice you get to make. Are you going to sell cheap things to cheap people where they are going to look for shortcuts and ways to penny pinch? Or are you going to sell valuable things to people who can afford it? Okay. And content, this is a really important point, content revolving around people making purchase decisions. So there's a different type of content when you just make content to get views, okay? Or there's content that's, okay, what is the best stainless steel pan in 2024? That is content that's going to make sales because it's people who are trying to buy something. Whereas if you just, you know, talk about informational things that honestly an AI overview can cover, you're not going to be making any sales from content like that because it's so far up the funnel that they're not ready to make a purchase yet today. Okay. So again, I just want to reiterate this point. Your business is like a stock. So you look at this, it's like this is clearly a stock that's, you know, growing up and to the right. It's exploding. And any business can do this if you have the right strategy because you get to control it. Unlike stocks where you actually don't get to control the growth and the movement of the price, all you can do is hang out for the ride. When you actually own your website, I mean, you can actually grow it and improve it every single day because it's a stock that you own. And there's inherent value in your business, and it's hard to imagine it. But basically, one example I have here where I sold a domain for just under $3,000 last month. And basically, that's just the domain. There was no website, there's no business, there's no cash flow, nothing. It's just an idea, right? So you have to really think about your business, something that's worth investing into. And it starts with even just the .com, the domain, okay? So let's talk about what worked in 2024. The first big thing, and this is actually an amendment to something that I shared before, which was I said to do 50-50. You do 50% informational, 50% affiliate. Or if you want to be safe, you do 80% informational content, 20% affiliate content on your website. Now, at the time, the reason I gave that advice is because there was a lot of these core updates happening. And there was a lot of rumblings that, especially the March core update, if we go back here to the March core update, that was a huge one. And I think that's around the time when I was saying to do this split of content. Now, on one hand, I truly did believe that doing informational content, it allows you to not sell all the time so that Google doesn't look at your site as some spammy affiliate site. But in addition to that, it was also to establish the authority and the expertise of your site without an agenda of always selling all the time. Okay, that was true. But here's the reality. Fast forward to the end of 2024. The majority of this content and this traffic, 90% of it, and the same with my students as well, basically is coming from affiliate content. We're talking long tail specific keywords that have a specific brand and a model in the keyword and the name of the content, the article, the YouTube video, you name it. It's not coming from the generic informational content. Now, that stuff is still getting traffic, but there's two problems with this. One, it's not getting the majority of the traffic. So it's kind of just relying on ad revenue if you're going to just make informational content. But then two, in addition, it's not selling anything. So even if like that did really well and I have some informational content that's doing extremely well, it's page one, it's getting thousands of visits from that content, it's not selling anything in particular. So even if it's doing good and it may boost these numbers, it's not actually making affiliate sales. So if it doesn't make affiliate sales, it's just not as much of a priority because ad revenue is not the main form of revenue for the site. But now that we're just under 50,000 traffic per month, that's just about eligible for Mediavine, which is one of the more premium ad networks where it would be worth to do ad revenue. Okay, so that's the first thing, informational content. The other thing is with AI overviews and so many other things out here, that's the easiest content to replicate and honestly to steal. So affiliate content's harder to steal because it's very specific, and at the end of the day, people who are looking for informational content, they just want an answer. They don't care if it's summarized in an AI overview. But people who are looking for purchase decision advice, they're not just looking for a quick answer. They're actually looking for more in-depth, whether it's videos or blog articles so they can read more. Now, the content types that actually earn the most affiliate commissions, first we have comparisons. Comparisons did extremely well this year for me, and they continue to do well. And comparisons are way close to the bottom of the funnel of a purchase decision. Let's say the bottom of the funnel is someone actually taking action, making a sale. Informational content's like at the very top where they don't even know if they really want to buy something today, at least. Middle funnel of the content is, maybe an individual product review. But then close to the bottom of the funnel is a comparison between two products, because essentially they've boiled down their decision to two brands, two products that are competing with each other. And there's usually 2 or 3 brands and models that are competing in your category of products for many different things. Okay. So comparisons are amazing because, basically whichever wins the comparison, you're going to sell a lot of that product, especially if you're getting a lot of traffic on that content. Buyer's guides is the same spirit of comparison. It's just more products compared. So best of or best product for insert type of customer here. So best air fryer for family of 4. See, that's an example of a very long tail affiliate keyword that's also a bit of a buyer's guide, and that's going to get a lot of sales. Next, we have your individual product review, which this has historically always been, a real converter when it comes to affiliate sales. If people are looking at reviews, they're considering buying something. And then lastly, we have tutorials and how-to, another really strong content type that historically I've used that is not really overly salesy, but it's very effective for conversion rate, because at the end of the tutorial, you want a finished state or goal. Someone's trying to build something and they want to get to a specific goal. In order to get there, they may need X, Y, and Z tools, which you're going to recommend in the video. And, because they're trying to get this goal, and, they may not even know what these softwares or what these products are, but they're just going to buy it off Amazon or whatever your affiliate link is, because they just want to get to the goal, which is more important. And if you're able to, build this authority and trust, they're just going to trust the brands and the tools that you recommend, because those are the ones that you use yourself. Okay, the next thing is quality over quantity. So the word count on average for positions 1, 2, and 3 for me, and I'm saying positions 1, 2, and 3, not just page 1, because page 1 is positions 1 through 10. Okay, if you're at the end of page 1, you would be positions 9 and 10. But if you're 1, 2, and 3, that's literally the top of page 1 organically. So for me, a 1,200 plus word count happened to be the average word count that's ranking on positions 1, 2, and 3. Now, word count's not something that I overly focus on, but I will say I just don't want it to be too thin. If I see a post, and I made a lot of posts earlier in the year that were only like 300 to 500 words. And when I look back at the performance of them, it's clear they were too thin. And if your content's too thin, it just doesn't give you a chance to really compete with what's in positions 1 through 5 on page 1. Okay. It just so happens that the content I had ranking the highest, it also happened to have around 1,200 to sometimes over 2,000 words. Not on purpose, not because I'm aiming for a word count, but just because that's how many words it takes to satisfy all the user intent who are searching that query. Okay. Now, check this out. This site ranking for over 14,000 keywords with just 59 pages. Okay. And position 1 through 3, we have 300, actually just over 390 keywords, 391 keywords. Got to update this. Okay. So you do not need hundreds of pages to start seeing big results if you're efficient. And I believe in quality over quantity. So that's what worked for me. Next, let's talk about backlinks. Do you need them? And the truth is, this site has little to no backlinks, and the domain rating is around a 5. Okay, just a 5. Domain rating, for those who don't know, it goes from 0 up to 100. And most of the biggest sites, they're around a 90. Okay. Anything that's over, I'd say 80 is extremely, extremely high domain authority, domain rating. We're talking, the biggest sites on the web, whether that's like CNET, New York Times, Wirecutter, like those are like 90 plus, okay? So a 5 is what we're working with. And we're able to outrank sites with much higher DR. Sometimes sites that have, over 80. And my opinion on backlinks is that Google is putting less emphasis on backlinks since so many sites were gaming them. And that's why they had core updates such as the site reputation abuse update, because people were essentially gaming these backlinks that were high domain authority and domain rating, and they were linking out to sites to try and boost them up. All right. People were paying for these backlinks. All right. So that's my opinion. Nobody actually knows the truth, but to me, I have actual evidence that a small site with a single digit domain rating can outdo sites with much, much, much higher domain ratings. And I have some sites that have over a 60, over a 70 domain authority. And honestly, I think there are more important factors than the domain rating and the number of backlinks. Next, content freshness is huge. So content freshness basically means, do you have content that is as up to date as possible? If the last time you had updated this content was in 2023 and it's already 2025, we're going to 2025, then the site that has the fresher content, even if it has a lower domain authority, you can actually leapfrog some of these sites just by being fresher and newer. So if you're starting today, that's actually an advantage for you because you're starting now, your content's going to be dated 2025. Right? Whereas sometimes some of these articles against my competitors, the last time they updated it was 2021. Okay. Yeah. Basically, this may also lead to more Google Discover traffic. If, for me, I get a good chunk of my traffic, maybe 5 to 10%, which is, it's not a ton, but it's, it's a significant amount. It's better than nothing. And I get that from Google Discover. And I find that content that's very up to date and that's fresh has a higher chance to show up on Google Discover. So EEAT, expertise, experience, authority, trustworthiness. Trust and authority is what gets you sales. So nobody buys from you until they can trust you or your brand or your website. And this is just a big point that I want to drive home is a lot of you fail the test just on your domain name alone. Someone lands on your website, they look at your domain, they're like, this is not serious. Like if they can't even invest into their brand and buy a real domain and have a real brand with a real logo, why would I trust them with their opinion? That's like the first test. That's not even like, that's the first just to get their foot in the door. But then to get them to believe you and to buy something from you, you have to satisfy a few requirements. All right. Next, consistency. Honestly, just showing up and just publishing at a high volume of quality content. Doing that every single week and sticking to a schedule. Really important. my students who have succeeded the most this year, even ones who just started this year, they were extremely consistent. They honestly published every single week, multiple posts per week, multiple even YouTube videos per week. And so the results are not that surprising. There was a lot of work that is behind those results. The next thing is YouTube. So YouTube is, something that I've been trying to push a lot of people towards, especially my students, because I want my students to succeed. And what I see working for both myself and my students, well, although I'm not using YouTube in this case study, this is all purely blog articles, but for my students who are getting tons of commissions, even as newer brands, they're focusing on YouTube, and YouTube is outselling the websites, anywhere from 3-to-1 to 5-to-1. Okay. And in my own experience, YouTube outsells websites 4-to-1 on average. All right. So that's the 80-20. If someone wants to ask me what's the 80-20, it's going to be YouTube, and video content is, that's the trend right now, but that's going to be the trend for the future, especially when so many things are, getting essentially stolen and copy and pasted with AI overviews and with AI blog content. YouTube is something that's very hard to just copy and paste. It's not that easy. All right. And then lastly, Pinterest. Sometimes it depends on your niche. I experimented a lot with Pinterest. If your niche is not one of those popular ones on Pinterest, and it's just not one of the ones that most people are going to Pinterest for, then it's not really going to work. And honestly, it's probably not worth it in my experience, what I saw. But for those, if your niche is popular on Pinterest, absolutely, you've got to invest into repurposing your content on Pinterest. All right, real quick, if you're getting value from this and you're enjoying this, smash the thumbs up button and leave a comment below if you're enjoying this and you want more weekly uploads just like this. All right, let's move on to what didn't work in 2024. So let's start with the first thing, AI blog content. Now, the reason why AI blog content, for the most part, didn't really work is actually because of the penalties and the core updates. It's not necessarily that, AI blog content can't work. It can, absolutely. And I believe that I have nothing against it. If you can at least humanize your AI content to where it's edited by you, it's, it has your voice, your brand voice, and you humanize it to where it's like 50% human written and then 50% AI, I see no problem with that. Okay. Now, the problem again is the penalties and the core updates. If you get penalized and your site gets dinged because of too much AI content and honestly lazy AI content that's 80 to 100% AI, then that's going to set you back so far. It's, you have to realize that trying to take that shortcut sets you back further in the long run, like so much. Okay. And then the other thing that I've seen with AI blog content, with various, students or companies that I work with as a consultant, is that they just don't generate much traffic. And then you don't get this compounding effect over time like this with 59 pages. Like this with a small amount of pages is because it's compounding. Every time that I publish a new post, it has the potential to lift all of the posts around it, and all of the previous existing posts can send that link juice and that page rank to the new post so that they can get a hot start. Whereas when you have hundreds of pages that honestly, they don't really necessarily link to each other, they're not that relevant to each other, then you don't really get a snowball effect. Okay. And honestly, a lot of this AI blog content is just not even worthy of being indexed at all. When Google is choosing what to index, it's typically things that are new and original info, which AI blog content typically doesn't pass that test. So a lot of this content has trouble even getting indexed to show up on Google. Even, we're not even talking about page 1, we're just talking about any page 10, page 5. All right. So quantity over quality is the thing that I personally did not see work. Obviously, it's better to have volume than none at all, but at the same time, again, like quality over quantity is my approach, and that's what my philosophy is overall. Again, informational content, this is something that didn't work as well in 2024. And even if it gets traffic, it doesn't actually sell products. So, at the end of the day, if you're not super reliant on ad revenue and you're focusing on affiliate revenue and sales, informational content just has a poor conversion rate. It doesn't really sell specific products for the most part. Versus, you do a review or you do a comparison, brand A versus brand B. Like that's actually going to sell something by the end of that article. Okay. And then Pinterest. Pinterest actually did work beautifully for some niches, but didn't work for niches that are just not relevant on Pinterest. All right. Now, let me talk about the free and the cheap SEO tools I use to achieve these results, because that is one of the reasons why I wanted to do this case study. Is I want to prove, okay, can we actually get results just using cheap keyword tools, not like using Ahrefs for the keyword research, but just using something that can cost less than $5 a month. So I found Keywords Everywhere, which is the extension, the Chrome extension that I've been recommending. And I believe the last time I checked, it was starting at $2 a month. That's when I bought it first, at the beginning of the year. So that's the last price I saw. And that $2 a month SEO tool is enough to get these kind of results. So to me, this case study answered the question, absolutely, you do not need these overpriced keyword tools if you know what you're doing. And typically what I see, especially beginners who are using something like an Ahrefs, SEMrush, Surfer SEO, RankIQ, they don't even know how to get the most out of those tools. Like the way they use them, you're using like 10% of the tool. And that's kind of like what I was using. I was just using the Keyword Explorer, for example. And honestly, that's just not enough to be paying that much when you can get results for much cheaper. The next tool is Google Search Console. Google Search Console is amazing. It's literally from the horse's mouth from Google is telling you how many impressions and clicks and traffic you're getting from Google search itself. And it's accurate. It's 100% accurate because it's from Google, and it tells you your average position and everything. So if you know how to use Google Search Console, which I'm working on more tutorials, especially for my mentorship program, because you can go so deep into Google Search Console and how to use that tool. And most people barely scratch the surface, just like with the Ahrefs, most people barely scratch the surface. Most people barely know how to actually interpret Google Search Console and how to use it to your advantage. Because if you know how to use Google Search Console, you can essentially replace a lot of the features that people are paying $100 a month on Ahrefs to see the same data, essentially. Now, Google itself. So, in another tutorial or video, I can go more in depth into this, but in my mentorship program, I show how I use Google to rank and do better on Google. Essentially, using Google to get a sense of what is the user search intent. So on, sort of a simple method is just look at what's ranking position 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 right now. Look at what's ranking 1 through 5. Look at their H2 headings. Look at their content. What are the questions they're answering? For example, whether it's FAQ, whether it's specific, product details, for example. So that's using Google to do better on Google. The other thing is autocomplete. I talk about that a lot. Keywords Everywhere plus Google autocomplete. Man, the possibilities are endless. And so basically using Google to do better on Google, it's something that is intuitive. Like a lot of people they overlook it. They see a keyword, they just start writing about something. But, for me, before I write about a keyword, I need to know what are people actually wanting to get when they search that keyword, because you never know until you actually search it yourself. Now, a pro tip for actual research, let's say you weren't trying to do SEO work specifically, you're trying to do research for anything, whether it's learning a skill, whether it's researched for an article, I'd actually use Perplexity AI instead. I've been using that as my search engine, and it doesn't have a bunch of, ads and sponsored links, occupying the first page. And Perplexity AI is just something I use almost every day now, and I highly recommend it. Now, as far as the website, the two platforms that I'm using and recommending and my students are using and getting results are either JetPage or WordPress. This site happens to be on JetPage, but honestly, I could do the same thing on WordPress, no problem. The other platforms like Squarespace, Wix, I would not recommend just because I don't really see a lot of people successful with those. It doesn't mean you can't be, you can, but it's just why make your life harder when these tools are built for SEO. And lastly, ChatGPT. ChatGPT has been amazing for brainstorming ideas, doing keyword clustering. Like I talk about, internal links and contextual links. Like your site should be very well thought out and laid out and designed to where your keywords, they all relate to each other, and you're creating these clusters. So you have, your site overall, then you have 3 main categories. Then you have keyword clusters as sort of subtopics underneath those 3 main categories. That's how I think of, most sites, and at least the sites that I create. And most of the big sites are just like this. You'll see some of the biggest sites, they only have a few things on their top menu. It's a few categories, but within those categories, they have the deeper sub niches and topics. And just to chat with, just to get a second opinion, I like to use ChatGPT, go back and forth. All right, so let's talk about how to future-proof your business from Google algorithm updates, because honestly, this is something that a lot of people, they lose sleep over these core updates. But, for me, I don't worry about them because I focus on these things so that I never over-rely on Google search, and my whole business is not based off just Google search. It's a big part, and you want to get traffic and be positions 1, 2, and 3 on Google search. Absolutely, that's prime online real estate. But at this end of the day, I know that if for some reason I couldn't use that, I would rely on these other things, and I could still make this work. So the first thing is focusing on giving value and building the authority and trust of your brand. Don't overly focus on sales, which is a lagging indicator out of your control. The more you focus on things you can't control, it's going to leave you, feeling pretty discouraged and demotivated. If you instead focus on having authority and trust, sales become so easy. Think about someone that you follow online, whether it's an influencer, whether it's a brand, whether it's a website like Wirecutter that you trust, right? When they recommend something, you just buy it because you trust the person recommending it first, right? So your goal is to get to that place where people trust you and your opinion and your brand, where when you do recommend something, they can trust that you're going to have the integrity to actually recommend something that works and that you stand behind. And then when they go buy that product and they end up loving it, it creates a cycle of, okay, that was a great recommendation. I'm going to listen to more of what this person recommends to buy or to do. Okay. So again, authority and trust is the thing that most beginners are trying to bypass, and they're just focused on sales, which you just don't control. But authority and trust is something you can control. It's something you can build over time, and you do it through consistency, through fresh content and showing up, through displaying your EEAT in your content every single week. Over time, people will go get to, know your brand and trust you, and the sales will follow. That's it. How to diversify your traffic in 2025. So the first thing is YouTube. I always talk about YouTube. It's such a huge part of my affiliate marketing journey and career, and I did it faceless. Definitely faceless in the very beginning. Scaled it to a full-time income and beyond, completely faceless, which I actually teach in the mentorship. I do a breakdown of my faceless YouTube videos that have sold well over $1 million. So you don't have to be on camera, but you still have to display expertise and give value somehow. That doesn't have to be you on camera, but it does have to be your thoughts and your ideas and your voice. Not necessarily your voice. You can use AI voiceovers like with 11 Labs, but you still need to display, what you're talking about. That's it. And then other than YouTube, which is, number 2 search engine in the world and can show up on Google, so you can leapfrog all those blogs. Meet your customers where they already are. So for me, these platforms are like Pinterest, if your niche is relevant on Pinterest, TikTok, or Twitter. These are the platforms where I wouldn't mind investing into as like a secondary platform. My main platforms would be my website and YouTube, which number 1 and 2 search engines in the world. But these 3 have, I believe, over 1 billion users each, active users every single month. So chances are, whatever you're selling, they're hanging out on Pinterest, TikTok, Twitter. Now, I don't put Instagram here. I'm sure Instagram is fine, but I just don't think that that's where I would be spending my time personally. But again, if your niche is on Instagram and your customers are hanging out on Instagram, you got to be where your customers are. Meet them there. And lastly, don't try to game the system. So, going back to these core updates, there's so many of them last year. And a lot of people said, this is the end of SEO and SEO doesn't work anymore because of the core updates. But, at the end of the day, when people lose positions, they used to be page 1. Now they're not anymore. Somebody else takes that spot. There's still 10 spots on page 1. And just because some sites are doing bad, it doesn't mean that everyone's doing bad. And that's the problem online. But it's okay. I'm okay if the narrative is, SEO doesn't work anymore, because for me, that means less competition and I could just sit back, relax, rinse and repeat this. Okay. So for me, it's actually good if the narrative overall is that SEO doesn't work, because then people stop trying. But, I'm here sharing you the truth, and I'm here sharing you what works, because, the truth is it does work. You're probably just not doing it right. It might be a skill issue, to be honest. So take it or leave it. It's either you look at this evidence and you say, okay, well, there's a path, but I have to make sure that my strategy, my execution is 100%. Or you can just say, no, it doesn't work. I'm not even going to try. That's fine. Like, less competition for me and for my students. All right, so that wraps up this video. If you're interested in learning my step-by-step framework, including copy and paste content templates that are ranking not just page 1, but again, we have almost 400 keywords in positions 1, 2, and 3 on Google, with little backlinks, 5 domain rating, and again, 5 figures a month in free organic traffic. And if you want those copy and paste templates and work one-on-one directly with me, you can schedule a free strategy call in the description. Not all who apply will be accepted. You have to qualify. But if you do, then I'd love to get on a call with you and chat about your goals for 2025, how you can turn 2025 into the best year ever. And again, it's something that it can start small at the beginning of the year, but by the end of the year, you could go from 0 to 5 figures a month in traffic, and to a business that, getting your first sale to possibly replacing your full-time income. Anything can happen in a year. You just have to stick with it. And again, your business is like a stock. And when we're looking at the stock chart right here, it's looking like Bitcoin. You want to buy and hold, and just keep investing into your stock. And you can see growth like this. So hope you enjoyed this. Catch you on the next one.